I'm standing in the creek bed of Racehorse Creek in Whatcom County near Bellingham, Washington. This creek is far different than it was 50 million years ago in the Eocene. The Chuckanut Formation was flat with rivers crisscrossing in and out. The animals that lived here lived in a flat wetlands. This predated the formation of the Cascade Mountain range. 50 million years ago, animals would drink from a creek, not unlike that. They would leave their footprints. They would have their young, and they would die in this environment. Some animals that called this place home were horses the size of a small dog. Enormous 7-foot-tall flightless birds left footprints that have been found near this creek bed. Turtles and fish roamed the river, but very few artifacts have been found. A turtle shell was found, and a fish fossil was found in this very creek. But why is there not much else there? Well, if an animal dies, there's a lot of other animals that want to eat that and a lot of microorganisms that want to eat what's left. So finding bone fossils is exceedingly rare. What has been found are the tracks of an enormous flightless bird. Many of these discoveries have been made by amateurs who were just poking around or hiking or stumbled upon history. And the beautiful thing is this creek is teeming with fossils. Now, if you take a look around, you'll see aspen, you'll see firs, you'll see ferns. Ferns have found this place home for many millions of years. In addition to ferns, the biome was completely different. Now, in my research about the Chuckanut, I kept coming across papers written by George Mustoe. Almost everything on the Chuckanut is either written by him or co-written by him. I emailed him, and to my surprise, he actually responded, and we had a Zoom call and spoke about the Chuckanut Formation. I'll let him take over from here.
Well, I'm George Mustoe. I worked 40 years at Western Washington University as a research technician. I retired in 2014, and I have stayed there as a geology research associate. I've had a pretty diverse research interest set over the years. I've particularly been interested in paleobotany and occurrences of petrified wood, but I've also done a lot of work with fossil tracks. Well, if you had a time machine and you could set the time to maybe 54 million years ago, the Chuckanut would be a meandering river that started somewhere around the Idaho border, carried weathered granitic rock debris from the mountain range there all across Washington, reached the Pacific Ocean somewhere in the general area where it is now. Climate is related to elevation, but the Chuckanut time, Washington State was pretty much a lowland area, and the climate was subtropical, meaning frost-free, had palm trees and tree ferns and the kind of things that will grow in that warm environment. The meandering river flowed through stretches of subtropical forest, big trees, small trees, shrubs, all kinds of things, a lot of tree ferns and palms.
There were palm trees here. It wasn't only palm trees, but you can see right here, we have evidence of a palm tree in Racehorse Creek. These lines are from a palm frond. I have some other specimens that show highly detailed leaves. You can see this is a rounded river rock. It has been in the river for quite some time. And when fossils are in the river, it gets tumbled and sanded down, and its beauty is slowly eroded and turned back into the sand. So it may become a creek bed for another life form. But when you split open one of these river rocks, you unlock a much more detailed picture of the past. Take a look at this rock right here. You can see it was split open fairly recently, and there's a very good detail of a leaf. I'm not entirely sure what kind of leaf it is, but there's a leaf there. This rock looks promising. Oh, so I didn't split it open, but look at that. I swear I didn't prep it. You can see there's more evidence of a palm tree right there in it. You can see there's the lines, and right there you can see there's veins within it. We're gonna open up this rock layer. There is clear lines where I believe there is fossilized riches. I have right here 3 rocks that I have gathered from Racehorse Creek. We have evidence of palms on this. We got palms here, and guess what we got over here? More palms. But these have something extra beautiful about them. They have different layers within it. You can see there's cracks that go along those seams. There's a crack here as well. So all we have to do is crack those open with hammer and chisel, and we can see uneroded fossils, and we'll get to be the first humans to ever see what's inside. This is what I love about fossil hunting. Humans and other animals have seen what's on the outside, but no one's cracked it open with a hammer, and no one's gotten to see the goodiness inside. Ooh, that one's coming off really clean. All right, let's unbox the Eocene. Is it in frame? Ooh, look what we got there. That is many layers of palm fronds, or palm leaves. This is definitely a keeper. I love having both halves of a fossil. On this table, I have fossil samples of the Chuckanut Formation from 3 separate locations. Over here, this was found in Racehorse Creek by myself. This was quite heavy to hike out. This has the widest individual palm leaf that I have found so far. And you can see it has a lot of rich layers, but I don't really want to mess this layer up, so I'm keeping it like this for now. Over here is probably the most detailed base of a palm that I've gotten. You can see there's some carbonization on the wood there that makes it very shiny. And there is some palm leaves as well. Right up here is some specimens I found on Chuckanut Drive. You can see there is a lot of richness in the leaves. And right here, there looks to be a reed of some kind. By the way, if you can identify any of these plants, please tell me down in the comments. It almost looks like a piece of bamboo, but I don't think bamboo existed in that biome. Now, over here, these were fun to hike out. These were found near the site of the Racehorse Falls landslide. So it's about a 2-mile hike from Racehorse Creek, 800 feet or so of elevation. I have a 360 video on my channel exploring that site, and there is the best preserved palm tree, hands down, I have seen in this formation, or ever. You can see there's a lot of stuff preserved on here. Quite a few leaves, some grass, and then I think this is a type of fern. I could be mistaken. And over here, got a couple of leaves, big palm leaves. I did want to point out the differences. You can see the river rocks seems to be a lot sturdier than what I found high up or down by the coast on Chuckanut Drive. This was about a 15-minute drive away. This is about a 2-mile hike away. But it's all part of the same formation. You can see this and this have a lot more in common with this than that. In terms of the material it's composed of, it's a very clay-like material, and I think if water gets on it, it will kind of fall apart. Over here, it's a lot more hardened. Luckily, I have a chisel. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. We got a lot of leaves there. Could use some touching up. But it's really cool to see one side of it being weathered by time, the other side preserving it. Now, here's a question for you. Why do you think a leaf gets preserved, and by the footprints get preserved, but other stuff don't? And how does it get preserved? Well, here's the thing. How many leaves do you see around me? Probably more than 5. A lot more than 5. I don't see any animals near me as well. The Chuckanut Formation, when it was in its river form, was subject to immense flooding. This area, presently, so Racehorse Creek, has some flooding. And the reason why I can tell you that is look where I'm standing. I'm standing on a riverbed. And look around here. This should be a forest floor. And you can tell evidence of that because we have all these trees and plants sprouting out of it. But there's all this river rock. So what happens is when there's seasonal flooding or particularly extreme flooding, in fact, in a river nearby here, there's a hot tub in the middle of the river, and I don't know how anyone's getting that out. But when you have big flooding, stuff gets buried with sediment. And if you bury something with sediment in just the right conditions and apply pressure and a lot of time, you get a fossil. And if you think about how many leaves are on a forest floor, or if you're an animal marching through the mud, you're going to be making millions of footprints in your life that have the opportunity to be preserved. The conditions for footprints to be preserved are specific, but because an animal is constantly stamping its footprint into the environment, there's a lot of opportunities for that to happen, just like there's a lot of opportunities for a leaf to be preserved for many millions of years. The conditions needed for a footprint to be preserved, such as those belonging to the birds, both great and small, that lived here, you need to make an imprint in a substrate similar to clay. It needs to dry out and be baked in the sun, and then it needs to be buried quickly with something more granular so that holds that shape. And then over time, as that rock solidifies in that shape, it gets preserved. And then you need conditions such as erosion and earthquakes and landslides to uncover it again and expose it. Being in a creek, there's many priceless artifacts that have probably just been destroyed by natural erosion over time. So that makes those finds very particularly rare. A hiker found a fish fossil here. Several hikers and paleontologists have found imprints of a 7-foot-tall flightless bird, and many imprints of 1-ounce flying birds. There's a lot of biodiversity here, and only a teeny little snapshot of it has been preserved in time. And what you find with fossils in the fossil record is just a little sliver of the life that actually lived there. We know there has been little horses, tapirs, and flightless birds here because we found footprints. We can infer there's been crocodiles or crocodilians and many other features of the ecosystem that you would find because we see similar ecosystems today, and those are the ecological niches that are filled. So there's some guesswork here, but it's really cool to see a little glimpse back in time. But we know more about animals that lived near bodies of water because that is where things were preserved. All good things must come to an end. At some point, the Chuckanut Formation stopped forming. I'll turn it over to George Mustoe to conclude the story.
The thing that ended it was the uplift, the early uplift of the mountain range blocked that big floodplain river flow. And instead, you started to get streams flowing down from local uplift areas, fast flowing kind of gravelly streams. And before long, you just ended up with mountain slope environments, which ended the wetland riverbank environment and kind of ended the preservation of fossils. And then by maybe 6 million years ago, the North Cascades really uplifted to make a big rain shadow mountain range, and that really changed the climate and the topography of the region.
Take a look at these mountains right here. Now, Seattle's right there, Bellingham's a little ways up, and these are the Cascades. They go all the way down the United States. These mountains were not there or nearly as high back in the day. So as the convergent plate boundaries squeezed together, these mountains rose up and it created slopes. Those slopes caused water to move faster. Now, for fossils to form, it needs to be buried, but it needs to be buried in fine sediment. So like Dr. Mustoe said, the mountains being steeper, that caused the type of sediment moving through it to change because any finer particulate would just be swept out to the ocean. As these mountains grew, that killed the formation of the Chuckanut Formation. Where these mountains are formed, there is a tectonic plate boundary. We're gonna simulate that with these two paper towels. So you got these two tectonic plates moving about 2 centimeters a year, same rate as your fingernails grow. They converge, and over many millions of years, it grows the mountain range, and then erosion sculpts it down. All of these mountains are actually way younger than the mountains on the east coast of the US. These mountains are much older. Their growth rate has slowed, but erosion did not. Time has grinded these mountains down to much smaller than on the younger half of the country. I'd like to thank George Mustoe for his contributions to this video, both in his interview and in his published research. This video could not have been made without his input. And I want to make it very clear, if there's any mistake in this video, that is my own mistake, not his or anyone else's. I did use some AI image and video generators to try to paint a picture of what the Chuckanut looks like. I hope it did an okay job. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.